Meanwhile, out on the grandstand, a young American, Carrie Cunningham, is underway.
If I look back all the way through to my childhood, I had a former career as a tennis professional.
Carrie Cunningham
Was trained at a very young age to keep my emotions in check, and that holding back on your emotions is a sign of strength. I realized looking back, although I didn't name it, I had my first thoughts of suicidal ideation when I was 17 years old. My name is Carrie Cunningham. I'm a physician and associate professor of surgery at Harvard Medical School, and I do endocrine surgery. So I primarily do head and neck surgery and adrenal surgery. Surgical training is probably one of the hardest things, the amount of hours, and you have to be in control of your emotions. So it felt very comfortable, and a lot of athletes go into surgery actually. When I decided to leave tennis and had that major transition back to school, I had, I would say, my worst depressive episode. And finally, at that point in time, I at least sought treatment. Still wouldn't take any antidepressant because I was applying to medical school. Fast forward 15 years, right? Training, doing research. The finish line keeps moving and moving and moving. I kept saying yes to more and more things. All of those things that I had tried to stuff down finally came to a head. I had my son, and then my second, trying to have my daughter at the time, and had struggles with fertility, which is very common in surgical residents because we don't sleep and we work really hard. When I was finally pregnant and gave birth to my daughter, my friend, she died by suicide in 2012, and that was the first time I knew that I had to start taking an antidepressant. Keep doing what I was supposed to do academically, writing grants, volunteering in all these organizations, and ascending to leadership roles. And this eventually landed on me getting involved in the Association for Academic Surgery. This also happened to be 2 years into the pandemic, where people finally starting to meet back in person. During that period of time, things had gotten very bad for me. And for a lot of people, number one indicators of depression and suicidal ideation is the sense of loneliness and isolation. I started using alcohol as a salve, and it helped me relieve pain. And most people who suffer from addiction will say, and I say this all the time, it's the smoke and it's not the fire. I was fortunate, although at the time I didn't feel that way, that I had a colleague. They were worried about me harming myself at some point. Spoke up and told the leadership in my own department that I needed help. I was very adamant, like, I worked my way up to this. I didn't do anything. It is complicated for healthcare workers because we care for other people. And so we take that as our cultural tenet. We think we're not allowed to feel pain when someone else is feeling pain as well. Our patients have it worse. After an evaluation of my fitness, was told that I was unfit to practice medicine. And this is still the hardest sentence I've ever read in my life. I wound up in 2 to 3 months of either inpatient or outpatient recovery, therapy, inpatient and outpatient, with a lot of other rock bottom moments in there. It took me 6 to 8 weeks to realize that I needed it. So as part of the presidency of the AAS, the president speaks at the end of their presidential year. So during the presidential year, I was in rehab. I had to rely on people. I had to ask for help. I didn't actually know, to tell you the truth, at some point whether I was ever going to be able to go back to being a surgeon. But I also realized I felt a obligation to speak about my story. I met with my boss before to let him know, because I was a representative of Massachusetts General Hospital, and I wanted him to know that there may be some people talking about this, and he was going to be in the audience. And he just looked at me, he had a smile on his face, and he said, "I hoped you were going to say that." I got up on that stage in front of 2,000 people I've known my whole life. I discussed what I had gone through, what were the lessons I had learned, talked about how high the suicide rate is in physicians. I made the decision to share my story in the hopes of using this opportunity for good. If I can prevent one of you or one of our colleagues from dying by suicide or suffering alone, it will be worth it. I just assumed that was going to be the end of it. 2,000 people saw it at the end. But then they released it onto YouTube, and it went, whatever they call it, viral. It just showed to me how much people needed to hear it. That these two very highly glorified arenas of surgery or medicine, physicians, healthcare, and sports, that doesn't protect you. I often get asked about why is it worse than physicians? The size of a medical school class each year dies of suicide in the United States. Doctors are patients too. They leave it untreated. Mental health is health. Substance use disorders are health disorders, and people need to realize that. We need to change the culture so that people feel comfortable coming forward. I am back to surgery. I love operating again. I love my job, and I am healthier, and honestly, I know I'm a better doctor than I was before I went through all of this, and it was worth every moment of it.